What's going on, Facebook? Sitting here having a bowl of soup. Decided to turn the camera on, waiting on a slice of some pizza. It's gonna be about 6 minutes, so I figured I'd rant. Real quick though, what Americans need to realize is that you were sold a bill of goods from the beginning. The bill of goods you were sold was having to do with the Revolutionary War. If you actually look closely at your history, you'll find that the creation of the United States, the 28 United States Code 3002-15A, had to do with the consolidation of power to the Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, which is not one of the 50 states. Its territory and jurisdiction is only 10 square miles, okay? It's not one of the 50 states, let me reiterate. Who are these people? What is the power? How did they come to be? What have you, right? Well, if you watch my other videos, you'll find 1779 through 1792, you'll find that this whole plan and scheme went into play, having to do with this new United States Constitution, which is contradistinguished from the Constitution for the United States of America. They are not one and the same. All right, I'm not going to go into those details now. You can go back in the archives, look at some videos. However, essentially, since 1780s, okay, when the Revolutionary War was happening, we were incurring debt. Each of the sovereign nation states, yeah, that's right, okay, if Wisconsin had existed, that would have been its own sovereign nation, Wisconsinites. That's why we have these names, Illinoisans, okay? We have those because at one time we were, before we joined this federal society, this confederacy or what have you, this union of states, okay, as one, pledging all power to this Washington, D.C. Before that, we were all nation states. That's important to know, important to remember, all right? So through this Revolutionary War, what ended up happening is whenever the country is at war, your state is at war, you incur lots of debt, all right? And you have to be able to pay those debts, okay? And the only way that you can do that is if you, in fact, someone buys up your bonds or what have you, okay? And so Great Britain, I'll just fast forward, Great Britain was the one buying up the bonds, okay, of the states, all right? Now, if you don't know, whoever has your bonds, whoever owns your bonds is the creditor and you become the debtor. Another way of looking at it is that you become the slave and they become your master. The creditor becomes your master, okay? So this is what was happening, okay? Great Britain was buying up the bonds of debt from the sovereign nations, states, okay? Now, on top of, okay, so after that was going on, after that was taking place, let's say the war is over, what have you, okay? Now, George Washington, John Adams, you know, all of the players at that particular time, I'll just put it like that, were actually British loyalists, okay? I forget what you heard, all right? They were actually British loyalists, okay? They came from over there. And I contend, through the preponderance of evidence in my research, that we were sold a bill of goods in believing that, well, let me not go that fast. All right, we're at 4 minutes. I'm trying to speed here. All right, so we have the colonists come over here, you know, so-called establish, you know, land colonies and what have you. Now we have an elite class, if you will, an aristocracy that came from Great Britain, okay? They supposedly defected, came over here because they wanted the freedom of religion and what have you. No. All right, so now that they're over here, they're finding all the wealth of resources and land, Okay. And so now, guess what? We need slaves. We need servants. We need people to work this land. Okay. And we can then harvest much wealth off of the backs of whoever we get to work this land. So enter the slave trades, enter the immigration and the promise that there's gold in these streets and that there's wealth here in the what they call the Americas. And so now they're wooing everybody to come over here. You can have whatever you want over there. So open up the floodgates and let people start coming over. You know, your Germans, your Dutch, your French, everybody starts coming over here looking for the proverbial gold rush, all right? And so that's what ended up happening. Now, that was allowed. That was part of a plan, because then they would have that chattel, they would have that workforce in order to harvest the raw materials, work the plantations, and then the merchant class, which Great Britain, would ship the raw materials, or the resources and the raw materials back to Great Britain. And then Great Britain over there, they would make the final product and then resell that back here. Okay, for which we would pay, or the then class, people would pay inabsorbent amounts, okay, for what they had essentially harvest, the natural resources from. They had the raw material here. Okay, so in other words, let's see, bean crops, whatever, right? Then they harvest them, put them on the ship, send them over to Great Britain. Great Britain creates let's say bean pies, all right, and then ships them back here, sells them here for 10 times what they, with the resource, you get what I'm saying. All right, so this is what was happening. Okay, and now you got the slave class here. You got the low class, slave class, the working class, for a nice way to put it. Okay, and so now you got the politics game being played. Okay, we have to pacify the people. Okay, you've made them essentially into citizens of your colonies, right? And they're foreign, but they're over here hoping to find jobs and work, so that they could feed their families, and we're promised prosperity here. And so that's what they're looking for. And so now you have this citizenry, and it's building, and this patriotic pride is building, because they're part of the Americas and what have you. I'm a German American now. I'm a French American. You see what I'm saying? And so now, what happened? 1789. You have this new president, this new power, Washington, D.C. You have this new vice president, John Adams. You have the new Congress, okay, setting up this constitution with all this delegatory authority. And so what do? As the colonies and the citizenry, if you will, starts to grow and, starts to go inland from the East Coast, whatever, from the, where people landed, let's say on, what is it called, where everybody got shipped in, immigration and all that kind of stuff, Liberty Island, perhaps. Don't quote me at it. But anyways, I digress. And so now you have these different states, okay, which in between 1780s and the 1790s, whatever, we were under what was known as the Articles of Confederation, but all the states were sovereign. They were individual sovereign nations. And now here comes this new Washington, D.C., this George Washington, John Adams. Now comes the Funding Act, the Residence Act, all these new acts and orders and executive orders, or whatever you want to call them, the Congress using its delegatory powers. And out pops this new idea. If all of the citizens of these individual states that are deep in debt will pledge all of their debt to the new seat of power, which is Washington, D.C., or was to become Washington, D.C. between 1790 and 1800, if they pledge, we will take all their debt. Now, remember, the president and all these British loyalists and elitists, okay, were all from Great Britain, okay? They were aristocracy. They were a special class. They weren't like the rest of the working class that had migrated or that were enslaved here. The slave class, okay? They weren't like them. They were on top. George Washington, just like today, okay? So they in Washington, D.C., this aristocracy class, this elite class, were saying, all of you nation states, whatever, if you'll join us, pledge allegiance to us, if you will certify your debts to us, we will erase your debt and we will give you strength and power because we will be unionized as one, as a centralized government, as opposed to you having your own coins, you printing your own currencies. There's no regulation, no unified regulation of your trade or commerce. You're all by yourself, essentially, striking the fear into the people. And we have a better way, is what the Congress is pushing, is what the president and even your Hamilton and John Adams, they're pushing this to and so, of course, the nation states are like, well, we can get rid of all of our debt, essentially a bankruptcy, a reorganization. We can start fresh. Well, yeah, we'll join you. We'll pledge allegiance to the United States, right? To this new federal corporation. Look it up. 28 United States Code 3002 15A. Look it up and you'll see. It says the United States means a federal corporation. So anyways, this is what happened. This is how we became enslaved, and this is why. Because we wanted to take the social welfare benefits extended, just like we do today, from that government power, that new seat of power called Washington, D.C., which is not one of the 50 states, I reiterate. It's not. It's its own independent sovereign nation, like we all used to be. Okay? So we, again, pledged allegiance, and we gave up our individuality, our individual sovereign powers, okay? And we became a collective under Washington, D.C. So we voluntarily walked away, and we gave away that individual sovereignty we had. And now you can see the repercussions of that choice. Now you are seeing the results of that decision that was made so long ago. Because we're still up underneath that. All right? That's what's going on. So when you're wondering why you hear about America, you hear about all the good things and the blessed nation and all that kind of stuff. You're hearing about it, and all you're doing is reverberating what you've heard about, how great it was at one time. But you're actually living under the new United States. That's why there are questions regarding your rights to have Second Amendment rights, or your right to Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's why they're able to change things that at one time were illegal. And some of the illegalities or unlawfulness is still on the books today, but they opened Pandora's box, if you will. And now you see, as of late, there's the debate over the meaning of what marriage is. The debate, okay, over same-sex marriages, abortion. See, these are all new. That was not allowed back in the old world. But I digress. I'm going to get offline now. It's 14 minutes. I didn't even mean to go this long. I got to get in here and get my pizza. But this is what's going on. Got any questions? You got any responses or whatever? Put them down below. And I'll see what I can do about getting them answered or debate you on it. All right? But I have facts and proof to back up everything I'm saying. But anyways, Courtney with CCOP Research. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for support. All right. We'll see you soon.